Hello, welcome to Tailoring Your Trajectory. My name's Lucy and I am joined by my co host and friend Charlotte. Today, we are going to be talking about mentoring. This is all part of the theme of setting yourself up for success. And we have three things that we want you to take away from this episode today. One, what mentoring is all about. Two, what the benefits are of being a mentor and a mentee. And we're also going to provide you with a number of mentoring programs that you can join for free. So, Charlotte, let's dive into this episode by kind of uncovering what are some of the traits of a mentor.
Okay, great question to start with. Firstly, very passionate about mentoring. So this is definitely going to be one of my favourite episodes. I already know that going into this. So traits. So I don't know about you, but I've had loads of mentors throughout my career. Some have been brilliant, some not so good. And being a mentor is not for everyone. However, I do want to start off by a stat first before I give you my list of traits.
Yeah, do.
Guida, who provided a tech mentoring platform, did a piece of research this past year and said that a whopping 89% of mentees go on to become mentors in the future. Now, to me, that shows that they understand what mentoring is and they had those traits in them and know what good looks like. So I think it comes from a good place. If you've been mentored before, then you've got that skill set, or you know what it takes to be a really great mentor. So I would say, trait-wise, you need to be a really great listener, because you've got to be able to dig into kind of the problem that you're trying to solve, essentially, for that person who wants to get to a goal. And so listening is a huge part of that. In my experience, and I'd be keen to hear yours on this, Lucy, as well, is often somebody will come to me and say they want to be mentored on a specific hard skill, for example, like, I don't know, project management, project planning, something operations related, KPIs, leadership skills, those sort of kind of very sort of harder skills. Typically, what I find is once you start listening, you uncover that it's actually something else they want to be mentored on, which is a much, much, much softer skill. And that's what you end up working on. But until you kind of listen and understand what it is that they want, you wouldn't necessarily know that straight away. So that's like my top one. I'd also say that you need to be quite invested in others. So I always talk about being a people first leader. And I think that is a hugely important skill set. You really need to be very people focused and really want to be invested in others, because it's a huge investment of your time as a mentor to actually want to do this. You have to have a growth mindset, fixed mindset. This ain't for you. Although I do think growth mindset is very important just in general, because you need to be able to work and navigate ambiguity and kind of pull out what it is that you're trying to advise that particular individual on. So I think that's really important. And you also need to kind of keep up with what's going on in industry and, latest personal development trends, themes, etc. Also, you need to be really respectful and responsive. And the reason I put those kind of together is that if you expect your mentee to be respectful of your time, you need to be respectful of what they're sharing with you. Because, in my opinion, a relationship of such is built on trust, particularly if you don't even know each other and it's an external program. That's really important. And responsive, because it's disrespectful if you're not responsive, which is why I put them together, but also because this person is waiting to hear back from you, or, has questions, and often it's real-time situations that you're trying to help them with. And then lastly, I'd say, I think I've got three more. Just thought of them on the fly. You need to be able to give quality feedback. So this typically is somebody who's got experience in being a manager or a leader. They tend to make most of the mentoring pool up because they are used to giving feedback, and it's really important. So a good example is I have had to give feedback for people writing their CVs. And what I don't do is sugarcoat it. They come to the School of Tough Love because I want them to be successful. And so I will give them quality feedback, or say, have you thought about this? You should reframe it like this. Have you, and be very specific in the feedback you're giving them to help them, but not do it for them at the same time. There's like that fine line. And then I will go back to lastly, which is having relevant knowledge. So if somebody genuinely does want to have some help with product management, you really do need to have done some product management in your career, or service management, for example, in your sphere. You really do have to be able to give them proper advice if you have that experience and there is that specific thing they want help with. Or just generally experience that you can draw upon, because what I find very useful is actually being able to explain to people, so I was in a similar situation, so I did this, this, and this. Let's see how we tailor that, because as with anything, you have to be able to tailor it because no two situations are the same. And so having that ability to do that, and those for me are the traits of a really good mentor. Do you have anything to add to those?
No, I think you've given such a fantastic list. I'm hearing there active listener, I'm hearing being respectful, I'm hearing growth mindset, having the right knowledge and experience, and actually being able to bring something to the table almost.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of feeds into what I say a lot, is about doing things for the right reason.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, and this is so negative, so forgive me, but I know some people go off and do certain mentoring programs, which I know that you and I are going to talk about, because it's a tick box exercise.
Yeah.
So, for example, Charlotte and I we actually met through this, reconnected through this mentoring program. Actually, I know there's some people within a certain space that want to tick a box. So they're like, oh, well, I want to make sure that I'm being more diverse, for example, and I'm just going to tick a box. And you don't really sometimes have perhaps the mentee's best interest in your heart, really.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, lots of people will put this on their CV. I certainly have it on my CV, but
Yeah.
it's something that you have to be very passionate about, because it is a time commitment, and it is a commitment to another person that 9 times out of 10 you just don't know. And actually, when you think about, some businesses do their own internal mentoring programs, and you're often matched in those scenarios with somebody that you just would never usually work with in your day-to-day. And so you really have to have that commitment and willingness to do it, because it's not just a simple, I've done it and I'm a mentor. So
Yeah. No, I think that you've covered such a lot. And you actually asked when you were saying about the listening, what's been my experience when I started to work with someone. They've come along and said, I really want to learn about how do I become a service designer, or transition, or I want to be more confident, or whatever it is. And when you've done a bit more conversational, done a bit of it does turn out to be, you said soft skills, I call it power skills.
I like that.
I know, I just don't like soft skills. I
You
feel
have
like
to trademark that, Lucy. Power skills is great. I love
I
that.
love it. I think I may have stolen the trademark from someone else, so I can't claim this as my own. Just so
Okay.
you know, please don't come and sue me. But I do like that when someone said it to me once around it's power skills, and I think it really is. I also wanted to you made me think about this as you was talking through it around, the traits of a mentor, and then you were saying around it, just something that made me think about it was around having a look at, sometimes you don't end up with the right person to begin with.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going around the houses there with that, because I was thinking, how am I going to word it? But sometimes you don't. You work with someone, you maybe have I've been in a situation where I've been a mentee and I've spoken to someone and I've thought, I do not want you to mentor me because I don't think we're on the same page, and vice versa. There's probably someone that may have met me and thought, Christ, that.
I mean, nobody's
Scratch that out.
but this
What
is
do
a
you think?
very real thing. I have definitely had somebody that I started mentoring, and what I learned from this personally, and you may have a similar experience, is I should have said, I'm not sure this is right. Because typically when you start a mentoring relationship, you have that first initial session. And what I do is I sort of set my stall out and say, this is my experience. These are the areas I mentor in typically. This is my style. I do give homework. Yes, I am that mentor. So if you're not interested in homework, I'm definitely not for you. And, it didn't really, out of the sort of 10, 12 women, mainly women, there's been a couple of men, but that I've mentored, at least one of them I should have called time on earlier. But also recently, another mentor said to me, I don't think I'm in the right relationship and I don't know how to stop it, because it's built on trust. And they said that their mentee was like telling them, I'm getting loads out of this. And they were like, I'm not sure I'm the right mentor for you. So it'd be interesting to hear from you. Like, how have you had this experience? Is it just me and this anonymous mentor,
No.
which I shall not name?
I've not had it with mentoring, but I've had it with coaching, which
Okay.
actually adds a whole new layer of
Yeah.
complexity to it because it's a paid for service at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And I've had to end a coaching agreement early, refund someone as well, because I have felt ethically as well with my coach training. I know this is about mentoring, and I'm sure we
Yeah.
will talk more about it in the coaching episode. I've had to, and again, ethically, I had to say, I'm really sorry. I don't think I'm the right coach for you. Here are my reasons why. Here are a list of other coaches that you could go and
Yeah.
work with. I would give you a refund, obviously taking out the time that we have worked together. And I wrote this all out. Then I followed it up with a phone call as well, followed up by another email, because again, I was contractually obliged to work with this person. But actually, if you put it on a kind of a mentoring scale, there's nothing stopping you doing the same. As long as you can, as a mentor, go, this isn't for me. Here are my reasons why I'm not the right mentor for you. And actually, I don't, you and I talking about this now, I know we're not the only two that have
No.
gone through this. And actually, not to try and blow our own trumpets here, Charlotte, but I'm always about big self promotion. I think that shows the kind of people that we are and that we're aligned to our values, because we are passionate about helping people.
Yeah.
We are passionate about building good careers and building cultures.
Yeah.
And I think if your values, maybe this might be an episode that we might talk about eventually, is kind of those values and those morals. If that's not sitting right with you, trust your gut. I always say that, trust your gut.
Yeah. I think 100% correct. And I think if I was listening to this episode, and I think the thing I want to leave the audience with is, no mentoring relationship is perfect. If it doesn't feel right, it's okay to say, thank you for your time as a mentee. Thank you for your time. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get what I need, or there's a right fit working relationship. There is no shame. There is no there's not going to be any repercussions. In fact, as a mentor, I'd much rather know up front. There's nothing worse than it's sort of petering off and not being clear up front. And then equally, as a mentor, particularly if it's your first time mentoring, you're like, oh, I just not got a good vibe with this person, or it doesn't feel like I can add value. It's okay to say to them, let me find you somebody else, or let me put you in touch with XYZ. I think it's really important to be clear about that.
Yeah, and you saying about clear has made me think about something that we had previously talked about, away from the recordings and podcasts, was around having a bit of clarity of when you're a mentee and you're going to a mentor, having a bit of a clear vision of what you want to get, like kind of align your expectations, I think is what I'm trying to say here. And I think that's really important as well, around clarity. What do you think? Has that been your experience?
I agree. You have to have goals. You can't just turn up and say, hello, mentor, I need to be promoted. Help me. That's not, they don't necessarily have the ability to do that. You need to have specific goals that you want to achieve. So it might be your big objective, your inspirational objective is, I want to get promoted, but you'll have sort of like mini goals underneath that. And those mini goals are the things that the mentor can help you with. But I think you need to have a think about it and be really clear about it. And I would say that that is true for if you go into a program, because typically when you go into a program, you'll be asked questions about what are your goals for the next 6 months, 12 months, however long the program goes on for. But
Yeah.
equally, if you reach out to somebody, whether you work with them or they're a complete stranger and you want them to mentor you, you need to be able to explain very clearly what your goals are, because that person just doesn't have a silver bullet and knows exactly how to progress you without any direction from you.
Yeah, and I was smiling the whole time you were talking about that, for two reasons. One, you were basically describing a coaching model, which is called Transform, which I will
Oh,
100%, if you join in the next episode, listeners, I will tell you and teach you a coaching model around Transform.
and me
Uh,
apparently.
and you. But also, I think there's nothing worse sometimes when you turn up to a mentoring call and there's been no prep put into it. So, or you've set homework. So if you work with Charlotte, for example, she clearly sets your homework. If you've not done, and I bet
It's
there's,
in your own interest. It's not
I
because I
know,
want to be mean.
well, I think it was probably a mixture of both. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Lucy, that's terrible.
I do think that, just kind of picking up with what you were saying, I think sometimes you do need to bring something. Oh, by the way, I was joking. I love you. Um, we're sending each other little love hearts now, but I do think it is about being clear, bringing that goal along, and helping you to break that down. Please come along with something in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think one of the things I learned really early on when I had my first mentor was I had no idea what to do with that person. And like, I didn't, and they were quite senior and I was quite junior at that time. And they were giving up an hour for me. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And I wasted my first opportunity. I'm
Yeah.
quite willing to say that, because I didn't understand the ownership part of a mentoring relationship. So a mentoring relationship helps set you up for success because you're able to utilize somebody's experience, their skill, their advice, their connections, their network. There's a whole breadth of things. I also recommend various books to people because I'm a reader, and podcasts. I do lots of different resource recommendations, but I think understanding that relationship
Mm.
and your kind of accountability in it, that will make it successful. And so I feel like we've talked a lot about the darker side of it, but really it's hugely beneficial. And certainly since I started to understand mentoring better, and I've been mentored by some incredible people, and over different time spans, by the way. Like, I've had multiple mentors, some of them long term, ongoing, some of them short, sharp, and revisit every so often. I have the same experience with my mentees. So, like, some of them I've mentored like for 6 months, and they're like, right, okay, I've hit my goal, I'm ready to go. And then they're like, oh, but I'm not sure I need to talk to you about anything. I'm like, that's good, go, fly.
Yeah.
Be happy, but come back to me if you ever need anything else. Like, my door, once I've had a relationship with a mentee, will always be open. But
Yeah.
nobody's mentoring journey is the same length of time.
No, and do you know what, Charlotte? You're right. We've talked a lot about the dark side of mentoring, and actually, I think we should cover some stuff around
Yeah.
benefits. And if it's okay, I'd like to share with you my recent kind of
Oh, yeah, please do.
mentee experience, and just to show you the benefits that you can get from it. So I recently decided, not recently, it feels recent, over the last 3 months, maybe I should say, 3 to 6 months, I decided that I was going to leave full-time work and run a
Yeah,
freelancing business. And I spoke to a few people, I was putting the feelers out there, and someone who was mentoring me at the time said, do you know what? I've got the perfect person for you to speak to. So I ended up speaking to this other chap, and he has been so instrumental to where I am now that I can't thank him enough, really. Um, I had a conversation with him today, in fact, and he has really helped me go from, oh my goodness me, I'm leaving full time work, to basically go and run a consultancy, and he's helped me go from basically A to Z.
that's
And it's
amazing.
from setting it up from how to find work to doing all of the stuff that I'm doing now. And that's benefited me in my career because I went with a problem, in a way, I'm saying that in
Yeah.
air quotes there. I knew what my outcome and my solution was that I wanted to go through. And we do talk about, Charlotte, it's exactly what you were talking about right at the beginning around listening. Because I don't just go there and I'm like, oh, I want to set up a business. It's that I talk about so many other things as well around mental health and how to keep myself kind of still in the game, and marketing, and just to kind of flip it round and the benefit, and he has said this to me, like on the spot feedback, that he feels like he gets something out of talking to me because I get to share some stuff with him around things that I've done that's helped him. And recently I talked to him and I taught him about taught him again, that's air quotes me saying that, around allyship, because we were talking about women in tech
Nice.
and his support, and I said, well, you're an ally, and it was a term that he perhaps he never thought about using before, and now he uses it. So we've been able to help each other out. And I just think that's a bloody good success story when it
Yeah,
comes to
but
mentoring.
no, it definitely is. And what you've just described is reverse mentoring, which is super powerful. Like, I don't think any of the people I've mentored probably realize how much I've taken from them,
Yeah.
because I think typically everybody thinks, oh, you're mentored by a more senior person. At least two of the people I'm mentoring at the moment are like 20 years older than me. So by inference, if we still lived in a world of linear careers, I wouldn't be the senior one. Age has got nothing to do with it. I think that's also really important. But
Yeah.
I've learned stuff from them that's made me think, oh, actually, I should think about doing this. And I just think that it's a two-way street. Like, it used to be very much a one-directional thing. And now it feels bi-directional.
Yeah. Do you know what? You've literally hit the nail on the head for me as well, because I used to think that exactly that mentoring was just me telling someone else and sharing my knowledge. I was going to say telling someone else what to do, but forgive me,
How
that's a bit
unlike
too,
you,
that's
Lucy.
that's my red personality coming out there. Apologies. Um, but kind of sharing advice and sharing my knowledge is a nice way to say it. But
Yes.
actually, from my experience of being a mentee, as well as mentoring people as well, I've learned so much, so much. Like, I
Yeah.
learned something. I was mentoring someone around their job was to do with like AI, and I never really was that interested in it to begin with until she started telling me stuff. I was like, "God blimey, this is so interesting!" Like, literally, God blimey. I ended up listening to some podcasts about it and reading, not a book, but like reading
Yeah.
some stuff around it because I was interested.
Oh,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah,
I do. That's just one of the things I actually really enjoy, is working with people from different industries, because you get such an insight into a world that
exactly.
you otherwise wouldn't know about.
Yeah,
And vice versa, obviously, because you share back as a mentor.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's really helpful. And also to see kind of parallels in different industries. You're like, oh, actually, maybe at some point in the future, I might want to pivot into that industry. And it's
yeah.
more possible than I thought, because these are the similar things about it. So but yeah, no, like the whole reverse mentoring thing is a game changer for sure. So I guess my advice to anybody would be, don't stay in your lane when you're looking
Yes.
for a mentor. Look for somebody who inspires you and who's got that experience that you're looking to get yourself, or that can help you reach your goals.
Yeah, and you've just made me think of two things. One, um, it, I'm just conscious that you and I have been talking loads about all this stuff, and I'm conscious of the time that we've been talking. But I wanted to mention as well that I'm going to go and be mentored as part of a group mentoring program, which is going to be my first experience actually. So maybe we might do a follow up episode around group mentoring instead of one-to-one mentoring,
Yes, I
because I
have
don't.
also. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to ask you the question. Have you ever been in a group mentoring?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
It's an interesting dynamic, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I learned, again, something very different from that.
Okay.
Neither of the other people had the same experience as me, but I actually learned something from both of them.
Yeah, I think
So
we'll put a pin in that then.
yeah,
That's what I was going to
let's.
say, and then we'll talk around that because I'm actually having my first call on tonight. So
Oh, that's very
nice
exciting. I look
episode.
forward to hearing about this.
So my question that you were saying earlier around your first experience with mentoring,
Yeah,
the person was was quite senior, more senior. Was that an
very soon.
internal?
It
Ment.
was, yes.
Okay. And then eh, just tell me a little bit about the difference between kind of an internal mentoring program and an external one.
I think largely they're the same, but internally it requires something different, right? So you have to have the buy-in from usually the senior leadership team or wider leadership team, who are usually going to be the people who are going to be the mentors, right? And if they're not bought into it, it makes it really difficult. You would have similar sort of matching. Probably it'd be more of a manual thing, because typically, these things are trial and error in a business, right? Eventually they'd probably go and get a tech platform like Guider, for example, not an advert. But setup wise, very similar. I think the main difference, and I talked about it in the traits thing a little bit, which is a relationship is built on trust. And depending on the culture and the environment that you work in and how you feel as a person, you might not want to go down the internal mentorship route, because I've spoken to many people about this over the years, and some of them feel that they'd be concerned that what they said to that person that's mentoring them would get repeated back to their boss. Now, if you work in a place that's got lots of psychological safety and a really good culture, then don't even consider that, because typically they've hired people in a way that fits values, etc., that we kind of touched on earlier. And typically those programs are a way to help you to progress, because they've usually identified you as somebody that they see as a future leader, or somebody that needs that bit of confidence, or you work really hard and they want to give you something back. And they typically will last, from my experience, between 6 months, 12 months, and up to 2 years. And then you kind of maintain that relationship kind of informally. You can also have informal internal mentors, because I know of people that have asked somebody that's not in their department, their pillar, their team, that they really are inspired by and would like to learn from, and they can have that as an internal piece. That's, for me, is kind of the difference thing. It usually boils down to trust, which is sad but true. And some people just feel more comfortable in an external program because they feel a level of anonymity without fear of repercussion. But again, for me, it comes back to thinking about the culture of the business that you work in and whether you feel that you have that psychological safety.
I've got nothing to really follow up on that, really, Charlotte, because I think you've covered it. Because I'm slightly on the fence with internal versus external mentoring programs, and I think it's exactly just summarising what you've just said. The reason why I'm on the fence with it is because internal sometimes, depending on the culture of your business, you might not feel comfortable in doing so. But it also is super beneficial in the sense that if you're looking to stay within that business, you
Absolutely.
might want to like progress. Someone may have just become a head of. Okay, well, how did you become a head of, or director? Well, how did you get to director level?
Yeah.
How do I do it? 100%. But it depends on the organisation, would depend on the level and good quality as well, I would say, mentoring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would advocate that the leadership team or whoever are the mentors all gets given a standard set of training, because just because they're in a leadership position with a C or a V or a D or a H in front of their job title does not mean that they know how to mentor, or that they are the right people to mentor. So it's really important, equally in external, because I've had external mentoring training on various programs, but I think really very much more important internally, because of the impact it could have on your culture, your engagement, and your retention.
Yeah. So I think, Charlotte, we've covered what mentoring is. Yes. We've covered the benefits of both a mentee and a mentor. I think we've covered that.
Yeah.
Yes. Now we're talking about programs.
Oh yeah.
Let's dive into the external programs that we're aware of.
Sure.
I will kick us off because I am only really part of one at the moment, and I know of the other ones, but I know you can talk more around it. Is the Read Women in Tech program run by Kevin Dainty? If you're interested in that, that's going to be in the show notes. I was part of that program. I've probably been part of it for a couple of years now, because it's how we've met, and we've been kind of you know,
Oh, it's several
chatting ever
years.
since,
Yeah.
several years. Um, really, really enjoy it. It's free to join. Found my mentor through that. I also like that they do those coffee. I keep calling them coffee corners, but they're not called coffee corners. They're like coffee mornings or like a little coffee
The
afternoon
networking things, yeah.
networking events. And just to plug, because I would promised David I would do this, is they're now doing community of practices, and we are launching a service management community of practice, which is going to be a group of people to come along who are specifically in service management to talk about anything that's everything to do with service management, whether it's to do with service design and wanting to know some tools, etc., etc., etc. I'll hand over to you to go through the rest of them.
That's a very good pitch, and I hope Kevin's listening because that was a great plug, Lucy.
Thank you.
So I guess other programs. So obviously we've talked about that one. Other programs I've been a mentee and a mentor on. LMF, so like-minded females. Check out Sonia Barlow and her team. Very inspiring lady, and also great team. They run 6 months, every 6 months cycle of mentoring programs. Really great experience. Recommend them. It is mainly focused at women. The one that I'm also working on, which I don't believe is a purely female mentoring program, is with the wonderful team at Burn Sheehan, who have started Futures program. I have one mentee with them, and it's highly personalized matching based on them knowing you through your various contacts within Burn Sheehan, and great program. Like the person I'm mentoring from that, perfect match, really very tailored. Some others that I also know about and I'm passionate supporter of is there's also the Girls Network, which is really important for mentoring young girls, particularly going into STEM, and just giving them some support that they probably otherwise wouldn't have. Other ways to have a mentor externally. I mean, there are a long list of different programs. We've just mentioned a couple. They're very easy to find. Plenty of them are on LinkedIn. But other ways is to find somebody that actually has a job that you want, and you might want to reach out to them, or somebody who inspires you. And that is also a very valid route into finding a mentor. And that's an external option. Again, internally, you could do the same thing with somebody who inspires you that's just not in where you work. But those are just a few that I know of, work with.
Yeah. Can I just add on to what you just said?
Sure.
If you're listening to this now and you're like, oh, I don't know about a program, but there is someone on LinkedIn that I really like, can I just say to you now, go and send them a note. And if you don't know what to say, reach out to Charlotte or I, and we will help you write what you need to write to them. Please, 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 please go. Take this as your sign to go and do it. The worst case scenario is they just don't reply. The second worst case is they say, nope, sorry, I don't have capacity right now. But the best case is, yeah, let me just send you over my calendar, find a slot. So please do that. There we go.
I just backing up what you said. People love talking about themselves.
Yeah.
And so typically people will say yes.
Yes. So please do this. Thank you. Thank you and goodbye. No, I'm kidding.
There we go. That's our call to
And
action.
that's our ending. So Charlotte, I think we've covered so much in just
Yes.
over half an hour now. So we've talked about kind of the benefits. I think we've also covered as well about roles and responsibilities with a mentor and a mentee around mentor mentee kind of it's your responsibility to kind of put that meeting in the diary,
Yeah,
etc.
absolutely.
We've given you some places where you can go to find a mentor as well. And actually, if you're a person that's thinking about mentoring and you want to find some mentees, go and check out those programs as well. Everything's in the show notes. And I think the final thing we wanted to say really was what you put into this is what you'll get out of it.
Absolutely.
So next week, we're going to be diving in to coaching. And if there is anything, so this is our second episode, and I'm going to put a bit of a call to action here as well. It'd be great to hear from you. So in the show notes as well. So if this is your first episode you're listening to, maybe we've put more out since then, don't know. In the show notes, you'll always find our contact details as well as a blanket email address that we'll both pick up and we'll both read. So anything that you think you might want to talk to us about, or you'd like for us to explore, or maybe you might be a guest and you might think, oh, I'd like to maybe come on and talk about this, that, or the other, please reach out to us because we are so open. We're so excited about this project that we have just launched.